The following program is sponsored by MaxOut Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, MaxOut Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. MaxOut Savings Advisors and members of the MaxOut Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity, prepare for your retirement, safeguard your savings, and nurture your investments. This is the MaxOut Savings Show with Ted Geoca, a presentation of MaxOut Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from MaxOut Savings Advisors, Ted Geoca.
I'm Ted Geoca, and we're talking savings, investments, and your retirement on our show. Our show is all about building up wealth and understanding the world today. Our motto and philosophy at the MaxOut Savings Show is to save aggressively, invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. That's the key to conserving that wealth and growing that wealth. And that's why we always talk about it. The most important thing is you start right away saving. Your savings rate should be minimum 10% plus a company match of 3% typically. That's going to get you where you need to be for retirement. Look, the Chinese and the Japanese are saving over 25% of their income. We have a $2 trillion budget deficit in the United States. How long do you think all these benefits are going to last at the rate we're spending money? And so take charge of your retirement today, save aggressively, and then conservatively invest the money. And listen to the MaxOut Savings Show. We'll get you where you need to be. Now, we got a lot to talk about in the show here, as always. We're going to be touching some on some of the stuff at the central bank. Again, Wall Street is misinterpreting what's happening. We try to bring some things that you're not hearing elsewhere and bring them to the show. We're going to talk about these markets, what's going on there. The S&P's 500 is back up to a high. Was this the start of a new bull market? What's going on there? What's going on with the Iran war? All these things we're going to be talking about here on the show. And the first thing I really wanted to go over here was, and I think it's important this is kind of a little complicated. Again, we're going to try to make it very simple, but it's important to understand that the Fed, to talk about the Federal Reserve, we've been a massive critic of the Federal Reserve. I don't like the Federal Reserve. If the Federal Reserve started in 1913, and since then the dollar's gone to basically zero. But the Federal Reserve is what drives a lot of Wall Street. It's driven one of the biggest bull markets. They've been flooding the system with money under Joe Biden for the COVID and creating a massive inflation. They were slow to react, and we had inflation soaring, 8%, 9%, and the Fed's trying to tell us it was going to go away, and the inflation pretty much stayed up there. It didn't really go back down. Because keep in mind, if inflation for the year goes up, let's just say 6%, that means what you buy costs, instead of $1, it costs $1.06. If the next year the inflation is zero, which means inflation's gone, you're still paying $1.06. So understand that. So the Federal Reserve has been critical to Wall Street. Now, a couple of things. The Trump administration. Okay, critics of the Trump administration, one of the things that amazes me is how they have utterly misunderstood President Trump and the administration. As we've talked about on the show, is President Trump put together one of the best cabinets since probably FDR. In the 1930s. I mean, he had an incredibly good cabinet. JFK had a really good cabinet. Trump's got a fabulous cabinet. I mean, the people he has Secretary Bissett. He has RFK Jr. I mean, the list just goes right down the list of very talented people. His energy secretary, his Bergen I think he's interior secretary. All of these are very accomplished, very smart people. I mean, people talked about the energy secretary. The guy is brilliant. He's successful at business. He's brought in very, very talented people. Secretary Bissett, he worked with George Soros and then Stanley Druckenmiller, probably the greatest finest hedge fund manager we've seen, and he was working with him. And then he's in at Treasury, so he understands how capital markets work. That's very important when you got a $2 trillion deficit per year, when you got almost 30 dollars. You need people that know the game. Pretty much across the board. His agricultural secretary, whose name slips my mind, from Texas A&M, I'm hearing phenomenal stuff about her as well. I mean, these are very, very, very talented people. Someone was telling me up at one of the farm areas that they had a problem with grazing on federal land, and it was a huge. They were going to kick them all off, and they talked to their congressman. They got with the agricultural secretary. She sent someone up, straightened out the whole mess. Within 2 weeks, the problem was solved. And so understand, President Trump, say what you want about President Trump. No one's happy with his tweets, okay? But President Trump learned from his first term and put together one of the finest cabinets in United States history. Now, why that's important is the same with the Federal Reserve. Kevin Warsh has come in. Now, Kevin Warsh put together 5 committees to redo the Federal Reserve. When I first heard this, I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, really? Here we come from the Federal Reserve again. And remember, the Federal Reserve controls the money. The Federal Reserve is what's pushed Wall Street prices up to record levels, sky-high valuations. And the constant thing is don't fight the Fed. So the Fed, probably after interest rates, the Federal Reserve is the number one thing. They set short-term rates. They have a much more difficult time setting long-term rates, but short-term rates they can control. And so they're very important. So I looked at the committee. It's 5 committees here. People on the committee. There's the balance sheet committee. And this is important. Look, this is, again, in the weeds. Most people don't understand this, but I want you to understand it because it's important. The balance sheet committee, the communications committee, the data committee, and the productivity committee, and the inflation framework committee. And again, when I first heard this, I just rolled my eyes. If you want to sandbag something, form a committee. But then I saw the people he put on the list. And for the balance sheet committee, he's got Jeremy Stein, Rajvan Raj, Karen Dinah. They're basically more insider types. But communications, he's got Peter Fisher, remarkably brilliant person. Aminio Franga, former president of the Brazil Central Bank. Mervyn King, Bank of England. For data, Rav Chetney, and this is data's interesting. So he's got Kevin Murphy, University of Chicago, Rod Chetney. I think he might be at Harvard, but he's got Doug McMillon, former CEO of Walmart, on there on the data committee. So how do we collect data? He put the former CEO of Walmart. So if anyone's going to know spending, that guy's on the committee. Productivity. He's got Mark Andreessen of Madison, Horowitz. These are big. These guys are in technology, private equity. They're on the cutting edge. Venture capital as well. Charles Jones at Stanford. Asha Sharma, Xbox CEO at Microsoft. Again, these are very talented people. Inflation framework. Greg Mancow, William White at the BIS, which is of the Bank of International Settlement. These type of people here are very, very, very talented people. They're not going to sit on a committee to whitewash over something. Clearly, Chairman Warsh understands that the Fed failed miserably at controlling inflation in the early 2000s. It was a complete disaster. They had interest rates at 0. They had inflation at 6-7%. They were way too late to respond. They just have not. They built up a huge balance sheet. During 2020, they started buying corporate bonds, but then they claimed it was just an ETF, which was way out of their area of what they were. It's actually they're not supposed to be buying corporate bonds, but they claim they were buying ET. So clearly, massive failures at the Federal Reserve, flooding the system with money, running up asset prices. So young people can't afford homes. They struggle. And all of these things are out there. And a lot of our problems out there, they've built a financial structure that I believe is becoming increasingly unstable with massive amounts of lending on Wall Street. And so it's been a disaster. But the important thing is Kevin Warsh, this guy, people like this don't get on a committee to whitewash something. These people are going to make big changes at the Federal Reserve. And some of the things we can be looking at, the President Trump wants the short-term rate cut. What are they going to do with that? Are they going to cut the longer term rates? Are they going to move duration in on their balance sheet to try to force the short term rates down? Remember, over 30% of the short term debt is of the total debt's less than 2 years. That's one thing. Are they going to come bail out Wall Street as soon as the market corrects? 8.5%, are they going to rush in and rescue Wall Street? This is a big deal. He had on his communications committee, again, Peter Fisher, very smart person, the former head of the Central Bank of Brazil, and Mervyn King, Bank of England. These are incredibly talented people in the monetary system, because he doesn't want to give guidance. Now, Wall Street is all upset. Why aren't you giving us guidance? Well, of course they want guidance. They want to hear what interest rates are going to be for the next 6 months or a year so they can make massive bets. Hedge fund can make massive leveraged bets, taking advantage of what the Fed's saying, and they can make a fortune. Okay, and so they're all upset. Like, why aren't you telling us what we're going to do? We're upset. Well, people forget Alan Greenspan, they could never figure out what he was going to do. It reached the point where when Alan Greenspan would come out of the hotel or wherever he was at and walk across the street to the Fed building, he would have a briefcase, and they would try to determine what he was going to do by the size of his briefcase, because he wouldn't give forward guidance. He wouldn't tell Wall Street what they wanted. Well, of course, Wall Street wants a free lunch. They want a no-risk reward, but that's not in the best interest of the country, and in particular, and very important, it's not in the best interest of the financial system. And here's why: is if everybody thinks they know exactly what interest rates are going to do, they're going to be taking huge bets in one direction. If something happens, if things reverse, it could destabilize the financial system. A financial system is much stronger if people aren't sure what's going to happen. They're not taking as much risk, and they're going to be much more cautious. They're going to have hedges in place just in case. And so you don't want, look, the problem we have in the United States today is our financial system is a Ferrari, okay? It's phenomenal. It's super fast. It'll outrun everything out there. It goes zipping around the track. This thing has got brakes. It'll stop it on a dime from 150 miles an hour. It is phenomenal. The problem is the minute you get on the dirt road with a few bumps on it, the Ferrari starts breaking down. What you want is a very fast car that's very strong, like a Chevrolet or something, that's going to ride through the bumps with no problems and won't break down. And so this leverage, we just saw what happened with the hedge fund that recently failed. That thing blew up. They had 3 to 5 times leverage. Wall Street firms like Goldman Sachs and Bank America and JP Morgan were lending them 4 or 5 times their money, at least 4 times. Some of them were trying to push 5 times their money. The fund blew up and run by one of the smartest people in AI, and there was huge losses, and the fund lost tens of billions of dollars. And that's one fund. We're not hearing about the other problems because, again, it was quickly swept under the rug. And what they did was their positions were bought by Citadel Securities, and Citadel made a profit. They bought them probably 10% of the market, and the market shot up for a lot of tech companies 10-15%, and they made a lot of money. But we don't need situations like that. We're going to be talking about this in the second segment. This is the United States of America in 2026. This is not the United States of America in 2000, where we're losing jobs every day. We're losing factories. It's a disaster. Basically, we're getting factories back. President Trump is we've been saying 500 billion. He's saying $1 trillion to $2 trillion worth of new factories coming in back in the United States. We have AI coming in. All this stuff is out there happening. And so we need to start building out our industrial base in the United States. And we need to start reining in Wall Street, which is out of control and basically a money machine for a bunch of basically speculators on Wall Street, because we need to create jobs in industry in the United States of America. We're going to talk some more about that after this quick break right here on the MaxOut Savings Show.
The MaxOut Savings Show with Ted Geoca will return shortly. To speak with Ted Geoca now, call 713-339-1070. Back in a moment with the MaxOut Savings Show.
I'm Ted Geoca, and I approve this message.
Inflation, instability in the market, bonds, precious metals, oil and gas, and lack of old-fashioned cash puts your retirement at risk. It takes a different type of portfolio to deal with these issues, and that's where Ted Geoca can come in, and he can help. Go to MaxOutSavings.com and schedule some time with Ted. That's MaxOutSavings.com. And listen to the Max Out Savings Show every Saturday at 10 a.m. on AM 1070 and FM 1033, The Answer.
I'm Sam Malone, president of 512 New Media. We're Houston's leading marketing and content creation firm for many reasons. Our assets are exceptional, from video production to web design, strategy, and the ability to say no. Saying no is integral in launching a successful, profitable campaign. For example, take a look at Memorial Day. It's a federal holiday set aside to honor and mourn those in our U.S. military who died while serving our country. I'll say it again, for those who died while serving our country. So how does having a sale work in unison with the reason for the day off? Look, we know people will be at the beach and barbecuing and having parties. We would probably say no to launching a Memorial Day sale. So is there another way to commemorate the day while marketing your brand? Absolutely. And from our experience, the same holds true with Easter Day sales and MLK Day sales and Christmas Day sales. That's why we're different. No cookie cutter, follow the crowd, template marketing. Let's talk. We're 512 New Media. 512 New Media. With better marketing comes better value, creating better results.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Geoca of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to MaxOutSavings.com. That's MaxOutSavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement.
We return now to the MaxOut Savings Show. Here's Ted Geoca.
Welcome back to the MaxOut Savings Show. I'm Ted Geoca. We're talking savings, investments, and your retirement here on the show. And we're just going over some of the big changes happening at the Federal Reserve. And the reason why we think they're big changes, you look at the committees that he's put together, some of the top financial people and money people in the entire world are on the committees. So Kevin Warsh is serious. And so one of the things that we could see happen is we're going to see changes coming up. We don't believe that we're going to see as much support for Wall Street. We believe that they're going to change up their balance sheet. Keep in mind, the Federal Reserve also, it manages banks. It doesn't manage banks, but it regulates the banks. And so one of the things to remember is they're going to be encouraging the banks. We want to see more lending at the banks. As we've talked about on the show, we have a situation where we're seeing that Wall Street has too much lending, the big banks, the big New York banks have too much lending on Wall Street right now. And we're shocked about JP Morgan have 12-13% of their balance sheets were loans, and the rest were repos, treasuries, securities for sale, lending to Wall Street, lending to big hedge funds, and so that's not a good situation. This is why at JP Morgan you're seeing Jamie Dimon talk about a massive $1 trillion program to lend to manufacturers in the United States. Just this week they came up with either $750 or $1.5 trillion program over 10 years to lend to low-income housing. What they're trying to do is they've got to restructure their balance sheet. You don't think the Fed has talked to them like, hey, guys, what's going on at JP Morgan? Why are you lending so much to Wall Street? Oh, and then how did this hedge fund get 5 times leverage? What's going on there? And so we're seeing this shift. If you look at something like a Wells Fargo, as we've talked about, they have 53% of their balance sheets are loans. But those loans are going out to an industrial base, to individuals. And those individuals aren't going to fail all at once. Wall Street can fail all at one time. And so as we've talked about on this show, so the bull market has risen up for the last 20 years on free money at the Federal Reserve. We now have inflation coming up. We have a Federal Reserve that wants to rein. I believe they want to rein in some of the spending, some of the lending on Wall Street. Well, that's not a positive, because Wall Street Wall Street needs money to flow. I mean, for stocks to go up, they have to have money coming into the market. And so I think some of this money is now going to be pulled back. Remember, AI needs $800 billion this year. They're going to need over $1 trillion next year. We're going to have to sit there these Arab countries are having to borrow money now, billions of dollars, because they have to repair military bases. They have to repair energy infrastructure because of the Iran war. This is a disaster. The Iran war is just kind of the one thing we have to spend. We're going to have to spend more money. $400 billion more is what Trump would like to spend on the military. Now, normally I would say that's ridiculous, but I'm going to expand upon that in a minute. And so we have all these people wanting to borrow more money out there. We've got $500 to $1 trillion worth of factories, everybody from General Motors to Eli Lilly to Japanese companies. They're all putting factories back in the United States of America, not just tech factories, but drug manufacturing facilities, new auto facilities, all types of things are coming back. So where's the money going to come from this? They're going to have to borrow some of the money. And so one of the things that the question is, where's the money come from? And so the money's going to have to sit there, is going to leak back from Wall Street, and that's going to be a problem. I want to cover the $400 billion President Trump needs for defense. In addition, I thought that was ridiculous. And again, but here's the problem. We went into the Iran war where we just had over the last, was it 3 years or something like 2 or 3 years, we've had the Ukraine war. And the Ukraine war morphed in from basically a World War II type of battle between tanks and military and troops into a drone warfare and missiles. And the drones were taking out tanks. So you got people putting together, $1,000 drone and blowing up a tank. And with pretty good accuracy, and so in addition, killing troops with the drones, which basically what happened. We went into the Iran war with about 30% of what I believe 30% of our military was obsolete, and military was rapidly changing very quickly, and we didn't have sufficient munitions, we didn't have sufficient drones, we didn't have sufficient missiles. And this is something the MaxOut Savings Show has talked about since about the 6 months into the Ukraine war. I said, why are we using up all our anti-aircraft missiles, our anti-missile missiles, our Patriot battery missiles, and everything else? Why are we burning through all those with this stupid war with the Ukraine when we might need them against China? So here we are, and then we went over with the Israel situation with Gaza and Hamas. We blew through an enormous number of Patriot missiles as well, and anti-missile missiles. So here we are. All of these systems have come down. We've shot off way too many missiles, so we went in there with low inventories. So the problem we have, 30% of our military is likely obsolete. We have to rebuild. We have to restock our missiles, our anti-missile missiles, our drones capability in the war. And war is so rapidly changing that we have to come up with whole new systems in place. And so that's going to take $400 billion extra in order to get us to go. I mean, honestly, if China, you got to worry about China, because after what we've seen so far, it's not looking good for the United States. I suspect we've held back a tremendous amount of stuff we're not hearing about, and I think we've not heard about some of the more advanced things. And we never want to discount the American military, but understand we have to spend money because the warfare is changing more rapidly now since any time since World War II. Okay. And we're now on a World War II effort of, we have to get these factories in place. We got to get these missiles out, these munitions out, these planes out, these bombs. We've got to get them out at World War II levels. The situation of the military contractors sitting around and basically, cash flowing their companies, putting out a certain number of missiles every year. I mean, they were like the oil companies. Well, look, we've been burned, so we're not going to drill that much more. We're just going to produce what we have and cash flow out. Well, I think they took that idea from the military, from the defense contractors. Well, so Trump has met with the defense contractors like, guys, look, hey, this is not acceptable. I don't want to see stock buyback programs. I don't want to see big bonuses. What I want to see is, I want to see factories going up. I want to see production increasing. We have to get this going. It's a matter of grave national security. So my point is, we have to spend the $400 million. So we have this big demand for money out there. We have inflation coming up. Look, inflation went down to 3.5% last month. Well, oil has since gone back up. And is what we've said on the show. People are missing. And again, with the mainstream media, they love to report about the price of oil. Well, what none of them say is, since a number of refineries have been destroyed or damaged in the Persian Gulf, and the Ukrainians have been blowing up all the Russian refineries, there's a shortage of refining capacity. So it's what's known as a crack spread, which is the spread it costs to crack, to tell you how they typically get oil and gas. The basic thing is, you basically boil the oil and gas, and then you have a tower, and then at certain temperatures, certain fuels will precipitate out. So, your diesel fuel will precipitate out quicker than the gasoline because it's a lighter one, so it's higher up the stack, and so so you crack it into different things. Sometimes you use cat crackers and pressure, different catalysts, but basically that's the basic thing. Well, the cost to break down oil into the diesel fuel, the jet fuel, the gasoline is about $20 a barrel more than it's been. So when you're hearing oil prices, what you're not understanding is that doesn't include the $20 extra. So when you hear oil is at $80, it's really at $100, and there's shortages. And so what we're dealing with is, the situation where we've got to sit there. We have inflation coming back. We're rebuilding the United States. We're rebuilding our manufacturing infrastructure, defense, everything, chips. This is an enormous undertaking President Trump has put in place, made possible by his remarkable cabinet that we've talked about earlier on the show. Again, the best since Roosevelt. They're getting huge things done, but this is disruptive. It's not the best thing for companies on Wall Street. It's not, because President Trump doesn't want to hear about how companies are making more money. Okay, that's not a positive in the world today. What is a positive is, we're hiring people. We're putting in factories. We've doubled production of the Patriot missile system. That's what people want to hear. I mean, he kind of chewed out the oil company executives a little bit. And as we said on the show last week, we looked at the earnings. They're good. We suspect they're probably doing what they can to sandbag those earnings to make them look not so good. So that's the world. So what do you understand? This is a completely different world. We have inflation now. The inflation's not going away. The build out of these AI facilities, the prices they're paying for workers, for talent, for everything from the copper in them to the chips to the memory chips, all the way down to the air conditioning systems and the hydraulics in them is doing nothing but go up. Well, that means the price of air conditioning systems elsewhere starts going up for other facilities. Again, it's inflationary. There's the old saying in the 1960s, guns and butter. Well, we've got massive programs in the United States in place that are for our safety net that we have, the entitlement programs. But the problem is we now have to spend on guns as well. That was inflationary. And so we have interest rates going up. If we look at the 10-year bond, it's gone up, quite a bit in here. Let me pull up the chart here. It's gone up from it was about 3.95%. It's gone up to 4.7% at the start of the Iran war. So interest rates are going up. We have huge borrowing capacity needs. And so these are all changing the global markets. They're changing. And so what I want you to understand is there's big changes we talked about at the Federal Reserve. These are really big changes, and we don't believe they're super positive for Wall Street. Are they super positive for a number of companies? Yes. Are there opportunities? Yes. But the free lunch is coming to an end. And the other question is, so we've got this massive demand for money from all the things we talked about. We have a situation where the banks have been lending huge amounts to Wall Street. The hedge fund situational awareness failed, not last week, but the week before, went from 45 billion down to about 10 billion, had almost all their public stock portfolio liquidated out from underneath them because they were lending between some people. David Favor said 3 to 4. I've had other people on CBC say possibly up as much as 5 times leverage. And so the question at Treasury and at the Federal Reserve for the banks was, wow, you're lending 4 to 5 times to Wall Street firms. Two questions. How much are you lending to all the other hedge funds out there as well? Was this the only one at 3 to 4 times leverage, or were a huge number of them where we have a problem? And the second question that we have to ask that I'm sure the banks were asked was, well, if you have all this money to lend, why aren't you lending it to into corporate America for plant equipment? Why aren't you lending it to small businesses? Why aren't you lending it to people? Why aren't you lending to people to buy houses? Why aren't you helping reindustrialize the United States? Why are you basically financing speculators on Wall Street? And so again, this is not a positive. So you want to be more cautious in this type of environment. We think there's going to be changes happening, and again, we think we're looking at what the Fed's going to do. We think the Fed is going to be a little tougher on the banks, and we're going to want to see that. So this is going to slow down the stock buyback programs. This is going to reduce the leverage of the big firms on Wall Street. And I think we're going to see that. And so this is something we want to continue to watch going forward to see how it plays out. But this is a lot of this stuff is incredibly complicated. I'm trying to make it very simple. You're not hearing this from anyone else. Where else are you hearing from mainstream media that there's such a demand for money it's pushing up interest rates? Where are you hearing, where are we going to come up with this trillions of dollars, $2 trillion for a budget deficit, $400 billion more for the defense work, the $1 trillion next year for the AI work, the $500 billion at least for factories next year or more, the probably $100 billion or more borrowing out of the air. Where are you hearing about all that? And you're not. But that demand will raise the demand for money. It's going to force money out of Wall Street into Main Street. And this is something they want to do. And the other thing that the Federal Reserve is going to do is, this is important. Look, every time the market's gone down 8% or so, there's been panic in Wall Street. There's a line of people out the door at the chairman of the Federal Reserve and at Secretary Bessett's office up at Treasury, like, oh my God, we need help. It's going to collapse. Please help us. We're not going to make our bonus. It's a disaster. And they always go to engage in quantitative easing to Wall Street. The money it generally goes pouring back into Wall Street. And what they want to do with the next quantitative easing type of program is they want to figure a way to push that money into industrial, into factories, into people in the United States of America. Because what's been happening is these quantitative easings, they push up asset prices, stock prices, which is good, but it also pushes up home prices, which is pricing young people out of the markets. And so what the Fed is good, this is why he has this blue ribbon panel of some of the brightest financial minds in the world on his 5 committees of communications, data, productivity, inflation, and balance sheet is because they want to figure out how can we stabilize the economy if there's some type of crisis. How can we push money in to the industrial base and grow the economy? We want to be more like China. Okay, we don't want to be like Wall Street. We want to be like China, where China has manufacturing capacity. They're exporting, building, and doing things. They're not speculating all over the place. There's plenty of speculators in China too. But this idea of 5 times leverage, 4 times leverage, where people are just levering up. And what I think is happening on Wall Street is I think there's a lot of companies that have $10 billion. They're borrowing another 10 billion to leverage up there, and then during the day they're borrowing another 10 or 20 million, speculating on stocks, again sucking money out of the economy over to Wall Street. That's coming to an end. This is going to be changed. There's big changes coming, and they're going to affect your portfolio. We're going to listen to this MaxOut Savings Show. We're going to keep you up on this. We got to take a hard break. We'll be right back right here on the MaxOut Savings Show.
The MaxOut Savings Show with Ted Geoca will return shortly. To speak with Ted Geoca now, call 713-339-1070. Back in a moment with the MaxOut Savings Show.
I'm Ted Geoca, and I approve this message.
MaxOut Savings is looking at rising interest rates, the bond market, and our country's spending to project the impact on your retirement. They use that data to help you flex to current conditions with your future in mind. Call 713-627-0400 to learn more. That's 713-627-0400 or MaxOutSavings.com. Remember, you can hear the MaxOut Savings program right here Saturdays at 10 a.m. on AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Sam Malone, the owner of Houston's cutting-edge media company called 512 New Media. At 512 New Media, we create amazing videos that companies use on their websites, telling their story in bold colors with exciting animation and graphics. At 512 New Media, we also shoot television commercials and instructional videos. And if you want to show off your business from the air, we're ready to go with our drone video aircraft. Let us help you create your media message. We're online at 512newmedia.com or call 281-822-8803. 512 New Media is Houston's only media creation and distribution company that's actually owned by someone who's currently on the air. And that gives us an incredible edge when creating content for consumers to use on their laptops, tablets, and smartphones. Standing by to create your message, we're 512 New Media, 512newmedia.com.
This is Ted Geoca, host of the MaxOut Savings Show, one of Houston's most popular financial radio shows, celebrating over a decade on the air in Houston, Texas. With stocks at record high valuations and interest rates near record lows, you need to have your guard up. You need to have a plan to manage risk to your retirement. Do you? At MaxOut Savings Advisors, we have a risk-based value investing approach to your retirement. If you would like some help managing your retirement, go to MaxOutSavings.com to set up an appointment. That's MaxOutSavings.com.
We return now to the MaxOut Savings Show. Here's Ted Geoca.
Welcome back to the MaxOut Savings Show. I want to mention one of our sponsors, Advanced Longevity, here in Bel Air, Texas. These people have a number of programs to help you improve your health and understand where you sit with your health. They have a full body scans, which for listeners of the MaxOut Savings Show, we've got a special rate we get if your husband and wife get one, they get a big discount. These things are reasonably priced. And what they'll do, they will give you a complete scan of your body, 640 different slices of your body. They can tell what type of, you have heart issues, do you have lung issues, do you have cancer, do you have all types of things, arthritis. They look at the different organs, and it's pretty remarkable. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of where you are with your health. And, and also could highlight of any problems you need to watch out for, maybe aren't a big deal, but something you just want to keep an eye on. And so in addition to that, they also have MRIs. They get the latest equipment, MRIs, ultrasounds. They do DNA testing. They do peptides, all types of different things for people that want to really maintain their health. Health is one of the most important things when it comes to retirement. So if you're interested, give them a call at 844-876-5433. It's Advanced Longevity in Bel Air, Texas. They got some of the most advanced systems out in the market, so you're getting the very best when you go there. Now, other thing we want to mention, we're on YouTube now. We're going to have this show up. You can actually listen on YouTube, see the video at AM 1070, The Answer website, KNTH's website. We're going to have it on our MaxOut Savings program as well. Typically, we get it on right away. And today, it won't be on, but it'll be on there pretty quickly. We're getting a lot of people starting to go to the YouTube now, so it's exciting. A lot of things are happening. So where do we go from here? Markets up near highs. There was a failure of a big hedge fund. Situational awareness, $45 billion, so it pushed up asset prices, and so we've seen a lot of stuff. We're seeing big things happen. The problem we're still running into is interest rates are going up. Inflation appears to be going up. We had a good, not a good job number, but there weren't as many jobs as expected. The 10-year fell from about 4.67 down to about 4.6 pretty quickly, but then it went right back up at the end of the day, which is not positive. Again, rates are going up out there, and this is something that we're going to probably continue to see, and we want to watch. The other thing, we've had earnings come out very good, but the earnings have been a little bit of a concern. Look, they're great earnings. Everyone's excited about the earnings, but one of the things we're seeing is that a good portion of this earnings are coming back from tariff refunds. So the tariff refunds were huge for companies like Apple and a number of other companies out there. So if you look at those refunds, and we're still doing the research to see if we can back out the numbers, and we'll try to get them to you on the MaxOut Savings report. But those numbers probably weren't as good as they could have been because they got the refunds. Another fascinating thing I heard was that some of the companies are making huge amounts by selling data. Kroger, I think Kroger's getting 25 to maybe 30% of their revenue is coming from selling data. So when you go to Kroger, you get all these products and stuff, and they're selling your data to each one of those things. And so the thing to keep in mind is you got to be careful with that data. Now, it's all not nefarious. It's some food company wants to see what other people are buying, other products. If they buy my product, what other products are they buying? It's a lot of that type of stuff too. But data is becoming a big thing. This is why AI, you're eventually going to see an AI device where you're going to be talking to the AI. The AI is going to be, there won't be any apps, and they won't be able to know who you are. Because this data is just out of control right now. And now we have these flock cameras. They're putting cameras up everywhere, tracking where everybody's going every day. And I was at the academy the other day, and there's a flock camera sitting in the academy. I'm like, well, if I go to academy or something to purchase ammo, or I don't want them knowing what I'm doing. And stuff, not that I go there all the time to purchase it, but it's just the principle of the whole thing. And so I think AI, I think there's going to be devices out there that are going to protect you in the future. I think that's one of the positive things about AI. There's a lot of cracks forming in AI. I really think, I'm starting to really, we sold some of our stuff that was related to AI. We've got a couple positions left. But what worries me is I noticed that China is putting rails on their AI, and that there was some, quote, incident. Well, it sounds like it was the same thing that happened to Anthropic and OpenAI, where something kind of breaks out of the system. And I was talking to a technology person last couple of days, and he goes, well, the AI knows that they're being watched, so they try to be real, they know we're watching them, so they try to be tricky and go around it, and so they're kind of cunning in what they do. But that's kind of a concern. And my comment was, yeah, well, now they know how humans feel being tracked all over the place, but that's another story. But what the AI is what, I mean, where's this AI going that if it can go break into something else and then get information? One of the AIs, even since it knows it's being shut down and restarted, it even put out how it can jailbreak out. So the next time it looks around, can figure out how they escaped the first time. And again, these are kind of concerns. Again, the energy usage on these things is so enormous, it becomes a big problem overall. And so this is something we want to just watch closely and see, I mean, how good are there great things for AI? Yes. Is it a good opportunity? Yes. But is it worth spending $3-4 trillion and increasing our energy usage in the United States, maybe 25-30%? I'm not completely convinced. And if you look, here's the problem. If you study the railroads, if you study the electrical companies, if you study the internet, all of those things worked and they were all huge. I think that the electricity, by the time 25% of the American public had electricity, just 25%, the electricity stocks had peaked and did nothing but go down. If you look at the railroad companies, a lot of them went into bankruptcy. There was enormous numbers of bankruptcies. It's the same thing happened with the internet. It's always the same thing. The car companies, there was probably 50 car companies originally, and ultimately GM rolled up a bunch of them. Ford had Ford and kind of was on their own. But and even then they picked some up. So the record of these new technological advances is very good that they work, but the record that everybody makes money is not good at all. And right now they've been pricing everybody makes money, and so I think we're going to see continued drawdowns kind of in the sector of technology. I think this was kind of I think there was a lot of people short the market, and then they when a situation where it just was failed and Citadel stepped in and bought out, there was a lot of people short on the wrong side, so they've run the prices back up. Keep in mind the Mag 7 are about 40%, Mag 7 and a couple more, 40% of the total S&P 500. It's pretty simple to manipulate a few big stocks, particularly if they have big stock buyback programs out there. And so I think, again, I think you've got to be careful in here. These market caps, the problem with is Apple's like at $5 trillion market cap, or it sold off some. I think you got to be cautious. Apple's got problems right now. But the problem is when everybody wants to sell, where's the $5 trillion for people that are going to go buy? Is there going to be $5 trillion worth of buyers? And the answer is obviously no. And so I think eventually the market capitalizations of these companies are going to catch up to them on the downside. And we still are dealing with the Iran war, which I don't understand how they can, shut down or set up a toll booth on the Persian Gulf, because it seems to me if you're going to set up a toll booth on the Persian Gulf, that's a disaster for the United States, because then they're going to set up a toll booth on the Red Sea, and then Turkey's going to put a toll booth on the Bosphorus, and then Malaysia's going to put a toll booth over on the Straits of Malacca, and then pretty soon, Argentina and Chile are going to set up a toll booth on the Straits of Magellan, and pretty soon everywhere there's going to be toll booths. This thing seems to be a disaster. I don't think we've seen the last of this Iran war. The Houthis are now attacking the Saudis, and now the Saudis, the Pakistanis, and the Turks have come in with a joint defense agreement in place. Because keep in mind, I believe they're Sunnis and the Shia are the Iranians, and so this thing, I don't see how this all gets settled real easily. So this is something we want to continue to watch closely. Our work is saying that storage for oil is very short. Storage for gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel is critically short out there right now. So we're not seeing drops in oil prices till late this year at best case. And so it looks like that inflation is going to still continue. Now, a couple interesting things. Gold broke out above the 50-day moving average. It was up $300 this week, up 4.7%. Silver broke out of the 50 actually Friday, but it was still up 10%. We get a lot of questions that we still like the precious metal sector. Again, in a world of almost $40 trillion worth of debt, out of control entitlements, $2 trillion worth of spending, wars around the world, AI build-outs, all of this stuff is inflationary uncertainty. The Chinese are buying gold. The Japanese are buying gold. Asians are buying gold. I mean, people around the world are stockpiling gold. So we still like the sector quite a bit. Oil companies are still going to make money because that crack spread is so high that they're able to make the money there. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I think you do have to be cautious in this market to really understand. Keep in mind, we have the midterms coming up. Seasonally, the weakest time of year for them in midterms election is August and September. We're right in the middle of it right now. And the question is, who's going to win the midterms? And the answer is going to be, we're not sure right now. So it could go either way. And even more concerning is these rabid socialists that seem to be getting into power. And so typically, almost every single midterm has a drawdown in that summer going into the election timeframe. So this is something we want to continue to watch overall. But the two weakest months are August and September. So something to think about. So I think you still want to have that higher level of cash in here. You want to manage through risk in this market. There's been a lot of money made in the market, and you want to manage through this. I mean, people don't understand how markets can go bad. We've been in this business for a while. We've dealt with several cycles, remarkably successful at MaxOut Savings Advisors. We manage retirement money, but we understand you worked all your life for this. You've gotten rich, and you don't need to lose it. And we take that very seriously. And I think you should with your overall investments too. If you need some help, we're here in Houston, Texas, and we can manage your retirement assets. That's what we do. We manage old rollovers from 401ks. People retire, they come to us. Trust, those type of things. We manage those using our value investing approach to the stock and bond markets. We hold the assets. Our custodian is Charles Schwab, and then we overlay the management on top of it. And when you do business with us, you can call anytime with questions about your financial situation, and we'll take care of you. So I'd like to help you. If you need some help, go to the website, MaxOutSavings.com. It's MaxOutSavings.com. You can request a free appointment with me here in Houston, Texas, or at a minimum, sign up for our free newsletter. We write about all these big issues in the MaxOut Savings. We try to make them simple so you can understand them, and we try to tell you what other people aren't, what Wall Street and the mainstream media is not telling you. We're going to tell you at MaxOut Savings Advisors. So if you get a chance, go to the website, MaxOutSavings.com, request a free appointment. You can give us a call or email us there, and we'll set up an appointment, or sign up for the free newsletter. And remember our motto and philosophy, which is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. That, my friends, is the key to building up wealth over the long term. We see you next week right here on the MaxOut Savings Show. If you get a chance, go to our website and see it on the YouTube videos as well.
This has been the MaxOut Savings Show with Ted Geoca, a presentation of MaxOut Savings Advisors. Join us next Saturday at 10 a.m. for the MaxOut Savings Show with Ted Geoca on AM 1070. The Answer.